What's going on? Move the Mouse here, back in City Skylines to talk about another mod, and I actually highlighted this one on the live stream this week, but I wanted to do a bit of a deeper dive into it, and I've got kind of a similar build, something that we can talk about here to kind of address some of these traffic problems that we're seeing here. So we've got a ton of traffic coming in off the highway, trying to get to this rotary, and you can see a lot of it is coming into our city and getting kind of jammed up in this intersection down here, and I basically just want to talk about this piece that you see on screen. We're not really going to go all over the map with this, but I want to show what you can do with Traffic Manager President Edition, because there's a lot of different pieces to this, and I think those of you that are playing on PC, this is one that you should not overlook. It's easy to miss some of the smaller features in it, but let's dive in and talk about what it does. And first, let's kind of compare what we have access to in the game with mass transit. So if we click on, and this is totally independent of the mod, if we click on a road name, you can access the traffic routes view, and then there's a junctions tab, and this is where we can turn on or off stoplights for an intersection and stop signs at any given way. And I've tried to just ignore the stop sign coming this way so people can funnel off the highway, but it's not great for moving lots of people through. But basically you can toggle traffic lights on or off, toggle stop signs on or off, and that's about it. It's not bad, and it's something worth looking at, but if you want to go a little bit more in depth, Traffic Manager is the way to go. So we're actually going to do something here. Let me upgrade some roads, because I want to show you the kind of the full complexity of this tool. So we're going to go to 6-lane roads. We're going to upgrade these segments coming off the highway, and we'll upgrade like a block in every direction to support a little bit more traffic coming through here. This adds some complexity, but again, I want to show you kind of everything that this mod does. So the very first thing we can do is switch on or off traffic lights on an intersection. Right, there's traffic lights, there's no traffic lights. Simple and straightforward enough. That one really doesn't need a lot of explanation. Now we can do manual traffic lights on an intersection, and you can control the flow of the traffic, and you can actually see the counter on there. So here, if we just leave this one green for a while and let traffic funnel off the highway, we can do that. And everybody else, as you can see, is stopped. And it's just letting this traffic clear out. That can be useful sometimes if you want to do a temporary fix. When you disrupt traffic flow quite a bit, maybe you add a new exit to the highway, you'll get a ton of AI all hitting that at once. And it may not be something that you need to solve with a timed traffic light. You may just need to kind of open the traffic light up for a while, let this backup kind of catch up and go from there. But in this case, let's go ahead and turn that timed traffic light off, and we'll open it back up to everybody, and you can see immediately we get that kind of traffic jam happening. One thing we can do is we can change lane arrows. So this is the next tool over here, and when we click on a segment of road, we can say what do we want each lane to do. So if we want a dedicated left-hand turning lane, we can turn off the ability to go straight from there. Lane 2, we only want to go straight. Lane 3, maybe we only want to go right. And that way people are going to line up in the particular lane that they want to use. And you can see pretty much everybody's trying to get over to the left lane as a result, because they really want to go kind of into the heart of our city down there. So that is one way you can do it. Now, the better way to do that is with the next tool, and that's the lane connector. So let's switch that back to where it was. And let's go over to the lane connector tool. Now, you click on an intersection to start working on the lane connections. Now, in this case, what we might want to do is if we want traffic turning left, we want them to take the lane closest to them. We also, over here, can have traffic that wants to go straight, go to this lane, and traffic from here that we want to go straight to this lane. I'll show you why in a second, because we're going to do the right-hand turns into the closest lane over here. Now, what forcing these cars in the right lane and the middle lane to go over a lane does is it allows us to have this lane turning right without cutting these cars off. We'll do the same thing over here and over here. There's nobody else turning into that lane because we can control kind of where they go. Again, we'll do a left turn only lane. We'll bring the straight lane over one lane. And we'll do the same thing with this right lane. They can go right or they can go to the middle lane, shifting all the traffic over, making room for this car on the right-hand side. And then we'll finish it off and do the same thing over here. And then the only one we have left to do is down here. So you're kind of controlling where the traffic goes, and that updates the lane symbols as well. So you don't need to use the change lane arrows tool. Just doing the lane connectors will do the same thing for you, but also allow you to decide what lanes cars are turning into when they get to the other side of that intersection. Now you can disable vehicle despawning. If they get stuck long enough, they will despawn. I don't know of a good use case for this, but it's an option. The other thing you can do is you can clear all traffic on the entire map, and everything spawns back where it started and starts its drive again. This can be interesting, but it also will generate traffic jams of its own, because all of a sudden you've got a ton of traffic, say, leaving your residential area all of a sudden, all at once, and it's not really a good representation of what's going to be happening in the long run in your city. Now this one is really cool. This is adding priority signs. So we'll come over to the rotary for this one. Rotary, roundabout, whatever you want to call it. We can click on an intersection and you can give priority, that's what this symbol is, to the traffic that's already on the rotary or roundabout. And we can make the ones getting on yield. We can do the same thing at all of these. So traffic here gets priority, traffic getting on has to yield. Priority, yield, priority, and yield. Now, if you had a problematic intersection like this, you could prevent this being used as a right turn lane and get everybody, because this is kind of backing up. So for example, if we wanted to make sure that these cars don't get backed up, you could force a lane shift and bring people over into that other lane. You could also make it so that, you know, if I was going straight, I can go to there and force them to stay in this lane. So there's different stuff you can do. If you want to remove it, so let's say we want to remove that, we made a mistake, you can actually click and create a node and then just right click to remove it. So that's really cool stuff. Where it gets super complex, I spent a bit of the last live stream talking about this next feature, which is the timed traffic lights. This is really where I want to invest some time. So, because this one is super complicated, but if you have a problematic intersection like this, you can do some really cool stuff with it. So again, we will choose time traffic lights. We will click on the intersection that we want to modify, and stay with me here because this is super confusing to get your head around the first time you use it. But once you do, it makes a lot of sense. Now I'm going to link a video down below in the description. This overview of Traffic Manager President Edition is a much faster version than the one that I actually learned all these tricks from. And he's a really small YouTuber. He's got less than 800 subscribers. So do him a favor, stop by the video that I'll link in the description, leave a like if you want a kind of 50-minute rundown of all these things. He does a great job kind of explaining it all. And you should subscribe too. It doesn't cost you anything, and it will help him get towards 1,000. That's where you need to be at to monetize your channel. And honestly, this video helped me a ton. So check out the link in the description below after the video, and stop by there, at least leave a like, and subscribe to that channel because he's got some really good tutorials on there. But specifically the one for Traffic Manager Edition is one of the best that I've seen out there. With my sidetrack out of the way, we've clicked on time traffic lights. We've clicked on an intersection. We want to set up a time traffic light. So if you've done any computer music MIDI production, this might kind of make sense. But again, try and stay with me here. I'll try and break it down. Basically, each stage of a traffic light is its own step. So we're going to think about this first. How do we get people off the highway? How do we get them coming in from this rotary into the town? And what do we want to do? So we want to add our first step, and this is where we can define some different values. Now, if I hit the change mode button, it goes from a single light to a double to a triple. You can kind of group them up different ways. So straight and right, separate light for left, straight and left, separate light for right, or we can control the 3 lanes of traffic, in this case, 6-lane traffic, each with their own function on their own light. And we're gonna do that for every light. Set it to the 3 light mode. So let's think about this in 4 separate stages. So if we want to let people go left, they'll be going this way. We want to let these people go left. Now this is one of the places it gets confusing. If you rotate your camera around, left is there, now it's there. So it can be a little bit confusing, but it's pointing the same direction the light that you're looking at basically is. So we've got traffic going left here. We've got traffic going left here. What else can we allow? Well, nobody's going to be getting in the way if they take the right-hand turn lane, because again, they're turning into the closest lane to them, this one on the bottom. The traffic that's turning left is turning into the lane closest to them, the top of these 3 lanes. So we can allow traffic to go right almost all the time because we've directed traffic with those lane connectors into other lanes where they're not going to be coming straight across and colliding with this car. They're going to be going into the other lanes. So this is the first step, right? We're allowing left-hand traffic and we're allowing right-hand turns on all 4 lights because they're not going to overlap with each other. Now you have a minimum time and a maximum time that that light is going to be on. So we could start with some basic values. You could do something like 6 and 12. You could do 12 and 16, 12 and 20, 15, 20. Really, it just takes some experimentation. The important thing to mess around with, and maybe even just leave it here to start, is this concept of a flow ratio versus a weight ratio. So flow is how much traffic is actually flowing through the intersection. Weight is how long are we waiting for that next car to get there. And this is a good kind of concept. If there's a ton of traffic coming through because there's a ton of cars lined up, it's going to slant this more towards that maximum time. And I think, honestly, for all the traffic that we have coming off the highway, we could probably do like 8 and 16 even, or 10 and 16. It really just depends. We hit add, and we've added that step. That's the first stage of our time traffic light. So let's think about the second stage, which is where we're going to turn off left-hand turning. Oh, I have to add a new step. We're going to turn off the left-hand turns, and now we're going to allow cars to go straight. And we're still allowing everybody to make right-hand turns, because again, they're not getting in the way. If you're going straight, you're getting into one of these lanes, and you're not interfering with any car that's going right. If I'm coming straight across, this red Jeep isn't going to get in anybody's way because they're using different lanes. That is stage 2 of our light, and since we have a lot of traffic coming off the highway, I'm going to keep that pretty similar. I'm going to do 8 and 12 for this one. We'll add that step. So those are the first 2 stages of our light. We've got the left-hand traffic first, then we stop the left-hand traffic, and we're allowing traffic to go through straight up and down, and always allowing the right-hand traffic. For our next step, we want to think about traffic going this way for steps 3 and 4, running along this avenue. So here, we'll add another step. And just to make things simple, let's kind of reset our thinking here and switch everything back to red lights. And we want to do the same thing that we did before, allowing the left-hand traffic to turn first, but also right-hand traffic. Because if you're waiting in this lane to go right, that is totally fine. Just go that way. Left-hand traffic, turning right, and turning right is always okay. So that is step 3. We are going to back the timing down here because I don't think, let me see. Oh, we've got a lot of traffic actually coming this way. So we might want to allow this the same amount of time. Let's do 8 and 12 here. So we're adding that step, and then we're going to do this one more time. Turning off the left-hand traffic and allowing straight traffic. And we will add it. Now you actually need to start it. And if we stay in this view, we'll actually see it transitioning the lights. So let's go ahead and hit play at 1 time speed. And then this is how our traffic is handling it. So you've got left-hand traffic turning in front of left-hand traffic. They're not intersecting with one another. They're not waiting. And you can see the light's about to switch to yellow. And now it's allowing the straight traffic through. You can see those forced lane shifts. If cars were waiting to go right here, they wouldn't be getting in anybody's way. Now we're halfway through our light cycle, and the left-hand traffic can turn. As soon as cars are kind of out of there and the flow is gone, it'll switch it over to a yellow light, and now our straight traffic is coming. So if we let this run a couple cycles, this might help clear some of this backlog up, but a better way to address this would probably be coming up with some other highway exits. But that's a really cool way you can customize how some of these are working. Now, we could, in theory, let this flow a little bit better onto the highway if we went back over to our connectors for this intersection. Sorry, that is not what we want. And didn't allow right-hand, or I'm sorry, and if we didn't allow anything but right-hand turns from here. Because right now you might have a car waiting to go right that's stuck behind a car that's waiting to go straight. So if we click on this intersection, again, to remove a node, you could basically redraw it and then lift it off. So I only want this right lane turning right, not going straight. Straight traffic is going to stay here, and it's going to go, heck, we could even do to here, and that might improve things a bit. So we'll do that real quick. Again, to delete a node, I'm redrawing that node, clicking left, and then dragging off and clicking right click. So now we have a right turn only lane in every direction, except for this one. I didn't fix this one. So that should smooth things out a bit more than what we saw before, because now you're always allowed to turn right. That right turn lane is dedicated for right-hand turning, the left lane dedicated for left turning, and you don't have traffic turning in front of one another, because when we're done with the left-hand turns, that goes red, and then you've got traffic that just goes straight across. So again, if we let that run long enough, it might clear this up. We might have to mess around with the timing because we're backing way up onto the highway, but we also only have one exit for this entire side of town. So something that we would definitely want to consider, making some modifications to the highway system, but specifically some really cool stuff you can do with timing of traffic lights and the lane connectors. Now, the last couple things to talk about are junction restrictions. Here you can turn off things like lane changes and crosswalks and U-turns. If you have some particularly problematic AI behavior, that can be useful. So mess around with that. I won't go into too much detail on that. You can change speed limits for roads, and when you click that, by default, you have different speed limits that are default set by the game. And these are in kilometers per hour. People aren't driving 60 miles an hour down our downtown area. But you can see that the 6-lane roads have a 60 kilometer per hour speed limit. If we come down here, the 4-lane roads are at 50, 2-lane roads are at 40, and highways are faster at 100 than the off-ramps are. Those will go 80. So you could, if you want to change kind of the behavior, modify your speed limits. You can also do unlimited, but the cars themselves have a limit. So most passenger cars in game are programmed with a 150 kilometer per hour limit. Maybe some even less in the form of trucks and other vehicles. So just simply setting this to unlimited does not necessarily make things go faster. It just means that the AI won't restrict themselves to a certain speed. Now you also have an option for vehicle restrictions if you want to force different car types into different lanes. If you want to keep the buses on the outside, you could restrict them from other lanes. You can do the same thing with cars, taxis, trucks, garbage and service vehicles, as well as emergency service vehicles. So you could have like an emergency service only lane if you wanted, and only emergency vehicles will use that lane. So some interesting things you can do with that. I know that it's different in other parts of the country. We talked about it on the stream on Sunday night. But in the United States, often you'll see highway rules on a 3-lane highway that prevents trucks from the left-hand lane and keeps the faster moving passenger cars, allows them access to that more easily by forcing trucks to use the middle or right lane. But any way that you slice it, you can kind of change some of the behavior around. The last thing that is very cool is the ability to remove parking from roads. So if we come out here, we have this roundabout that just has tons and tons of traffic. And it would probably make sense in most cities if you have this road kind of leading into the main town that you might not have parking on this strip. So if I click on this, you'll notice that these cars on the right-hand side are going to disappear because there's no longer any parking allowed there. And it actually puts them over here into the closest parking lot of the business that's nearby. You'll see it shifts them around. Now, if you want to affect the entire street all the way up to the next intersection or junction, you can hold shift when you do this, and it will remove parked cars from that side of the street. We do the same thing over here. And now we've got a nice, clean, parking-free zone all the way down to the next intersection. And again, you can remove that in certain segments. It's a nice way to kind of change the look and feel. You know, you'll have some parts of town that don't have parking on the street, and this is a nice, easy way to do that. The other way, of course, you can do it is... The other way you can do it, let me scroll down here, is by simply changing the road types. Roads with decorative grass or tree-lined streets don't have parking lanes. So if we upgrade this, there's no more parking lane, and it does remove those cars. If we put it back, cars are able to park there again. But that, in a nutshell, is the really quick version of Traffic Manager President Edition. I will leave a link in the description down below to a really great 50-minute tutorial. If it is something that you want to dive more into, check that one out, because you can connect multiple lights together to change the timing of an entire strip. If you want to chain the light behavior together across multiple intersections, you can do that. And that creator gets into it. Stop by, leave a like on his channel, subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, and it would really help his channel a lot. As someone who was struggling to get to 1,000 subscribers a little more than a year ago, you know, it's this tough kind of hurdle to overcome. And then last year was fantastic for me, going from 1,000 to 12,000 in 12 calendar months. So stop by that channel, help that guy out. He did a really remarkable tutorial on Traffic Manager President Edition. Now, one real quick side note that I want to mention, because it is not worthy of its own video, but there is a mod called Pedestrian Crossings. And you might know them as zebra crossings, depending on where you are in the world. But anywhere the game creates an intersection, it enables pedestrians to cross the traffic. And if we come over here, we'll have some people streaming out. Where's my metro station? I thought I had a metro station right here. I could have been wrong. But you'll see people crossing. If you have a really long block and you want to get people crossing in the middle, the way that you can do that in vanilla is to change the road type. So again, if we upgrade this road, not only does it get rid of the parking lane, but it's a different road meeting a different road type, and it creates an intersection there for the pedestrians to cross. You'll notice that they start using it right away. These people may not be interested in crossing, but it happens almost immediately. We'll revamp that and bring that back up, because what pedestrian crossing does is it gives you this other little tool here down below the road tools, and I can click anywhere and create a pedestrian crossing. And somebody took that immediately. That's fantastic. Now, this does create a stoplight. If you go into Traffic Manager President Edition, you can turn off the traffic lights there. Or if they were on, the other thing you can do is it works just like a good old-fashioned traffic light. So you could stop, or you could have a traffic light, or you could have nothing and just kind of let people fight it out with the traffic. It's totally up to you. But it's a nice, easy way to get pedestrians moving around your city by making it easy for them to cross. If we had a really large park in this case, and we don't want people to have to walk all the way down to the end of the street to cross into here, we can do that. So road tool, pedestrian crossing, put one right there, put one over here by our park entrance, and again, right-clicking will remove it. If you do insert these, though, definitely keep in mind that you may want to remove the traffic light as a part of that process to just let people flow through, but still give pedestrians a way to cut across and into our park where we can make some nice money. So that is the kind of quick version of Traffic Manager President Edition. Even though it clocked in at around 25 minutes or so, it's not something easy to really explain in a super quick manner, because there's a lot of different pieces and components to this. It's not easy, you know, to kind of explain this in really short order without getting into some of the nitty-gritty details. But if you want a longer form version, again, I'll leave a link in the description down below. Check out that guy's channel, leave a like, subscribe, help him out. If you did enjoy this video, likes, comments, shares all help the channel a lot, and as always are greatly appreciated. Subscribe if you're new, hit the bell to get notifications, and until the next one, this is Move the Mouse, signing off.